Antoine Griezmann could be returning to Atleti in a swap deal for Saul. How would that work, Sid?
Well, how it would work, to be perfectly honest, is cast your mind back to last year and the deal between Juventus and Barcelona to swap Arthur and Pjanic. Admittedly, both of them were theoretically transfers in their own right, but it was entirely down to moving money around, to moving the accountancy figures around, to try to see them through certain barriers in terms of financial fair play and the salary cap. What Barcelona are now in is a situation in which, and this goes back to Messi, as you rightly say. The deal with Messi is done, the agreement with Messi is in place, but Barcelona still need to shed huge amounts of salary. Absolutely enormous amounts. We're talking about salary cap that went from 671 million down to 340 million, that isn't yet set in stone but is likely to be under 200 million euros this year. Javier Tebas the other day said that Barcelona's salaries alone account for 110% of their income. That is unsustainable. That cannot happen. So Barcelona desperately need to get wages off the books. So this is a situation in which they try and look for a solution. And that looking for a solution doesn't necessarily just mean selling players like Griezmann, like Dembélé, like various others. It means getting their salary off the book. That's almost as important as a transfer fee. And so what do? You look for a solution where you look for a club that suits Griezmann. You look for a club that can offer you something in return, even if it's not money, in this case it's a player, but a player who would come to you earning less than Griezmann was earning. And that is the key to this. The key to this whole thing isn't really about money in pure kind of terms of putting it together and adding it up. And well, if we get 100 million for this, then that saves 100 million off the offer. And then if we can raise 50 million on this player or 20 million on the other player, it's much more focused on the salaries. Admittedly, of course, any money that came in from transfers would help as well. But this is about trying to get rid of one of their biggest wage earners. And it's a real pity, I think, but it's also a solution that would be good for just about everybody involved.
Do you think that would be a good solution for Griezmann to be going back to Atleti where he was the superstar?
Why? Why is it going to be good for Griezmann? The reason he left Atleti was because he wanted a brighter light. So was he just all of a sudden going to turn around and say, you know what, didn't work? I'm okay with that. I'll just go back there and go with the old family. I don't think this is something that Griezmann wants in his legacy, shall we say, because that's what's going to happen. People are just going to say, well, he just took the easy way out. He wanted to be this superstar. Now he's taking the easy way out and just going to go back home and go with the old family.
Yeah, overall, though, it just didn't ever seem to be the right fit for Griezmann at Barcelona, did it?
Well, no, because at the very core of all of this, Antoine Griezmann wanted a free role. There's only one player in Barcelona, and now until he turns 39 years old, for 5 more years, who will have a free role, and that's Lionel Messi. And so, yeah, as long as Messi is there, Griezmann was not going to have that sort of role. He was going to have something more specific, more of a guy who would have to defend a lot, who would have to sacrifice himself. That doesn't quite match the expectations of a player who came at a price tag that would demand him scoring big goals in big moments with consistency, which we never really saw from Antoine Griezmann. Now, here's the other thing I would say about Antoine Griezmann. I have to imagine that part of the reason that Antoine Griezmann leaves Atletico Madrid, because your shelf life of what you can put up from Diego Simeone reaches a certain level for an attacking player. A guy who's creative, a guy who likes to get on the ball. You turn that page thinking, hey, now I'm going to have the ball. Now we're going to create chances. Now we're going to score goals. And now you have to take a step back to this running around and fighting and pushing and shoving, and this is how we're going to win. And you're going back to a team that just won La Liga, that have proven that way of playing actually suits them very well. I don't know how this matches the needs and wants of Antoine Griezmann. And yet his needs and wants also don't match up with Barcelona. So Antoine Griezmann, good luck.
And unless you're an Atletico Madrid fan, everybody else sees this title. Because you could argue that, well, he's going to a place where you might win a title. The truth is, unless you're an Atletico Madrid fan, this was all about how bad Real Madrid. This is about how bad Barcelona were. You know, it's almost like they haven't really got credit. And the truth is, they weren't particularly great to watch all season, but they ended up winning the league. Is that really what Griezmann wants to do? Go back to a side that basically doesn't get Certainly doesn't get anywhere close to the respect that a Barcelona or Real Madrid get.
Well, going back to the whole Messi part of it, Sid, is there any talk on what the timeline would be and when they would be able to sign him? And do you feel, is your gut feeling that perhaps this will just all work out in the end?
Well, I suppose it depends how you define all works out. I think it will work out in terms of they will find a way to keep Messi. Whether that really counts as working out, let's see. Because let's see what they have to get rid of to make Messi possible. Let's see how many players have to depart for that to work and whether that damages the team. Because it's one thing to keep Messi, and you know, I think Steve was absolutely right earlier to introduce the element that Messi is still the best player in La Liga. To introduce that into the conversation. You know, we were talking about Messi as an icon and as a symbol and all the rest of it. He is still the best footballer in Spain and by far and away the best footballer at Barcelona. But, of course, if that comes at the cost of really significant departures, then you do have to ask questions about whether this works out for the team. As for a timeline, Kay, it's very difficult to judge this, not least, of course, because all the way through this process, and this isn't just guesswork, all the way through this process, based on things that have been said from within the club, based on ideas about how those inside believed negotiations were going, how close they thought they were to a deal, we kept getting different dates. This would happen. Remember, we were all convinced this was going to happen on Messi's birthday, that it was going to be kind of set up as to be a symbolic announcement on Messi's birthday, which came and went. We were convinced that it had to be announced before the end of his contract, which came and went. Bear in mind, let's not forget this, Messi is currently a free agent. Messi currently doesn't have a club. You know, he's pretty much the best unemployed footballer in the world. In fact, he's the best footballer in the world, but that's another issue. And so I think, you know, the hope is that this gets done before the end of the month, that certainly it gets done before Messi has to come back for pre-season training. But of course, and forgive me for being cynical about this or being, if you like, pessimistic about this, until we see it, there will always be concerns that it might not end up happening.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.